From the cold, echoing corridors of a prison cell to the warm embrace of a community transformed, this is the story of a man who defied the odds and rewrote his destiny. It is a story not just of redemption, but of purpose, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the power of second chances. His journey began in a place many would rather forget. The clang of iron doors, the rigid routines, the constant sense of being watched. These were the realities he faced every day. In his youth, he had made choices that led him down a dark path. Tempted by quick money and the allure of street respect, he became entangled in crime. At first, it seemed like a way out of poverty and obscurity, a chance to gain control in a world that often felt chaotic and unforgiving. But the consequences were swift and severe. An arrest, a trial, and a sentence that seemed like the end of hope. Inside prison, time moved differently. Days blurred into weeks, months into years. At first, anger and regret consumed him. He replayed his mistakes over and over, haunted by the faces of those he'd hurt and the family he'd left behind. The noise of the prison, the shouts, the clatter, the endless waiting, it all pressed in on him, threatening to crush what little hope remained. But in the depths of despair, something unexpected happened. He began to listen to the stories of other inmates, to the wisdom of the few who refused to let their circumstances define them, to the quiet voice inside that whispered of another way. He started to read books about history, philosophy, and faith. He attended every program the prison offered: anger management, addiction counseling, vocational training. Slowly, a new vision of himself began to take shape. One day, during a group session, a counselor asked a simple question: "What do you want your life to mean?" The question echoed in his mind for days. He realized he didn't want to be remembered for his crimes. He wanted to be remembered for making a difference, for helping others avoid the mistakes he had made. He began to volunteer within the prison, tutoring fellow inmates who struggled with reading and writing. He found purpose in helping others, in seeing their confidence grow as they learned new skills. He wrote letters to his family, apologizing for the pain he'd caused and promising to become a better man. He dreamed of a day when he could walk free, not just from prison walls, but from the chains of his past. After years of hard work and good behavior, the day finally came. He was released, stepping out into a world that had moved on without him. The challenges were immense. He had no job, little money, and a criminal record that followed him everywhere. Many doors closed in his face, but he remembered the lessons he'd learned inside: persistence, humility, and the importance of service. He found work at a local shelter, cleaning floors and serving food. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest. He listened to the stories of the people he served: homeless veterans, struggling families, addicts trying to get clean. He saw in them reflections of his own struggles, and he knew he wanted to do more. He began speaking at schools and community centers, sharing his story with young people on the edge. He talked about the choices he'd made, the price he'd paid, and the hope that kept him going. His honesty resonated. Teens who felt invisible saw someone who understood their pain. Parents saw a cautionary tale, but also a message of hope. He started a non-profit organization dedicated to helping former inmates reintegrate into society. The organization provided job training, mentorship, and support for those facing the same obstacles he had. He worked tirelessly, often late into the night, writing grant proposals and meeting with local business leaders to find opportunities for his clients. Over time, the community began to notice. The man who had once been feared and shunned became a symbol of transformation. He was invited to serve on advisory boards, to consult with city leaders on criminal justice reform. His lived experience gave him a unique perspective. He knew where the system failed, and he knew what it took to succeed. He never forgot the people who helped him along the way: the counselors, the volunteers, the family members who never gave up on him. He paid it forward, mentoring others who were just starting their own journeys of redemption. The impact of his work rippled outward. Former inmates who had once felt hopeless found jobs, reconnected with their families, and gave back to their neighborhoods. Recidivism rates dropped. The community became safer, not through harsher punishment, but through compassion and support. He believed that everyone deserved a second chance, that no one should be defined forever by their worst mistake. He spoke often about the importance of forgiveness, of others, and of oneself. He knew that change was possible because he had lived it. His story inspired countless others. People who had given up hope began to believe in themselves again. Community members who had once demanded harsher penalties for offenders now advocated for rehabilitation and restorative justice. He faced setbacks along the way. Not everyone was willing to forgive, and some doors remained closed. There were days when the weight of his past threatened to drag him down. But he remembered the promise he had made to himself in that prison cell, to make his life mean something more. He found strength in the small victories. A letter from a former inmate who had landed his first job, a smile from a child whose parent had come home sober, a thank you note from a teacher whose students had been moved by his story. He also found healing in reconnecting with his own family. It took time, patience, and humility, but slowly, trust was rebuilt. He became a role model for his younger siblings, a source of pride for his parents. He learned to forgive himself, to accept that while he could not change the past, he could shape the future. His journey from prison to purpose was not just about personal redemption. It was about changing the narrative, showing that people can change, that communities can heal, that hope can flourish in even the darkest places. He worked with local law enforcement to develop programs that focused on prevention and intervention rather than punishment. He advocated for policies that addressed the root causes of crime, poverty, lack of education, and trauma. He believed that real safety came from strong, connected communities. He also spoke out against the stigma that followed former inmates. He challenged employers to give people a second chance, to see beyond a criminal record and recognize potential. He encouraged others to look for the humanity in everyone, no matter their past. Through his efforts, he helped change the way his community viewed justice. Instead of seeing offenders as lost causes, people began to see them as neighbors, co-workers, and friends, people worthy of dignity and respect. He never stopped learning. He enrolled in college courses, studied social work and psychology, and attended conferences on criminal justice reform. He knew that to be an effective advocate, he needed to understand the system from every angle. He also made time for self-care, recognizing that the work was emotionally demanding. He practiced meditation, spent time in nature, and nurtured his relationships with loved ones. He knew that to help others, he had to take care of himself. As the years passed, his organization grew. He hired staff, expanded services, and built partnerships with other nonprofits. He celebrated each success, no matter how small. A client who stayed sober for a month, a family reunited after years of separation, a young person who chose education over crime. He also faced heartbreak. Some clients relapsed, others returned to prison, and not every story had a happy ending. But he refused to let failure define his work. He saw each setback as a lesson, an opportunity to improve and adapt. In moments of doubt, he remembered where he had started. The prison cell, the darkness, the sense of hopelessness. He remembered the people who had believed in him when he couldn't believe in himself. And he remembered his purpose, to help others find their own path to redemption. His legacy extended far beyond his own life. The people he helped went on to help others, creating a ripple effect of kindness and transformation. The community he once harmed became stronger and more compassionate because of his efforts. He often said that true freedom was not just about walking out of prison. It was about breaking free from the chains of shame, anger, and regret. It was about finding meaning in service, about turning pain into purpose. His story reminds us that no one is beyond hope, that every life has value, and that redemption is possible for those who are willing to work for it. It challenges us to look beyond the surface, to see the potential for good in everyone, and to believe in the power of second chances. From prison to purpose, his journey is a beacon for all who seek to change their lives and make the world a better place. It is a story of courage, perseverance, and the unbreakable human spirit. A story that continues to inspire, one life at a time. Whispered Truths brings you soulful stories that inspire. Hit subscribe and let truth whisper to your heart.